It's 9:04, and I'm going to call this meeting of the Planning Commission to order. We have a quorum of 5, so we're going to move forward. May have one more join us here in a minute. Looks like the first item is the consent agenda. The commission may request for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for presentation and public comment. Otherwise, the consent agenda will be considered in one vote. All items on the consent agenda have been recommended for approval by staff with no opposition received to date. Since some of the items on the consent agenda may require public hearing, the commission will accept public comment on any item on the consent agenda in one public hearing. So the items on the agenda: consideration of the July 18th Planning Commission meeting minutes, final plat for the Enclave at Twin Oaks Addition, Section 3, final plat of the Shops at Sherwood Subdivision, Section 2, a replat of in Block 48 in the Angelo Heights Addition, and a replat in Block 72 of the Lakeview Addition. Does anyone wish to pull any of the consent agenda items, or conversely want to make a motion?
Motion approved.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. All right, the regular agenda, subdivision plats. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. I'm going to read the first two items in together. So, PP 2208, preliminary plat of Block 39, Lakeview Addition. A request for approval of preliminary plat of Block 39, Lakeview Addition, being 0.459 acres located southwest of Bowie Street and west 44th Street. And the second is a replat. First replat of Block 39, Lakeview Addition. Request for approval of a first replat of Block 39, Lakeview Addition, being 0.346 acres located southwest of Bowie Street and west 44th Street.
Thank you, Chair Stribling. Planning Commissioners, Jeff Fisher, Chief Planner with Planning and Development Services. We're going to do this as one presentation. As Chair Stribling mentioned, this is a preliminary and a replat of Lakeview Addition Block 39. The original lots, there was one home that sat over the two lot lines. So this long rectangle here was lot 1, and this whole thing over here was lot 2. The applicant, Galilee Homes, wants to build an affordable home in this location, and as an infill project, basically since that second lot is really big, just cut this up into 3 lots. So it's basically going from 2 to 3. The preliminary plat would be for all 3 lots, and then the replat is just for the 2 lots that are now going to face Bowie Street. This is in District 2, Tom Thompson, in the Lakeview neighborhood. So this drawing lays it out clearly for you all. Lot 1 and Lot 1B is the replat. So this is going to create 2 lots, 50 by 150, so pretty good size facing Bowie Street. And then the preliminary plat will allow a Lot 1C to be final platted later. So that'll just stay as that will not be a lot be built on yet, but it could be built on down the road. A variance was granted for Lot 1A. As you can see, it's on the corner like that, so there's no alley in between. It makes it a double frontage lot, and so it would be impossible to do 2 25-foot setbacks and have a 25-foot wide house. So they did a variance for that corner to allow this side to be 7.5 feet. That went to the zoning board last month and was approved. So this is all good to move forward. 60 notices were mailed out because this was a replat in an RS1. We did not receive any responses. Let's see, so subject property. So that's looking at the property from here, and then that's south on Bowie Street. So this is all curb and guttered on both sides of the street. Streets meet the minimum widths under the subdivision ordinance, so there were no variances. It's just very straightforward as we move this through. North on Bowie, west on East 44th. So staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat subject to 1 condition, and approval of the first replat subject to 4 conditions. So on both preliminary and replat, the conditions are just revise the plat and just show the naming convention. So the proper name could be first replat of since it's the first replat in this block of Block 39 Lakeview Edition. The remaining conditions on the replat, there needs to be a sewer main extension, so they're going to do that, install the water and wastewater service lines, and then provide a copy of the tax certification. This concludes staff's presentation. Any questions or comments for us or for the applicant?
Jeff, I have one question. I'm looking at the aerial photo that was provided, and it appears that there is a home on Lot 1.
Yes, that has
A.
been demolished.
Okay, so they raised that home, so they're going to redevelop
That's
all three of
correct.
these lots.
Yes.
All right. That answers the setback question. Thank you. Anyone else have questions for the staff? All right, we're going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this case, please state your name and address or single member district, please.
Hello, Erica Wilde with Carter Ventures Engineering. We appreciate staff's help on this. It's all pretty straightforward. And we just ask that you approve it as presented.
All right, thank you, Erica. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment and take a motion.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve both the preliminary plat and the replat. First replat as presented by the staff, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can we make one motion to approve both? Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve both the preliminary plat and first replat. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? 5-0. I'm going to read items C and D in together. PP 2209, oh, Brittany's going to recuse herself. PP 2209, Cetus subdivision, preliminary plat, a request for a approval of a preliminary plat of Cetus subdivision being 14.25 acres and a variance from Chapter 93B2 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to not require continuation of a street stub out to the adjacent property to the east, located northeast of Bell Street and Paint Rock Road. And then final plat FP 2226, Cetus subdivision, Section 1, a request for approval of a final plat of Cetus subdivision, Section 1 being 1.780 acres, located northeast of Bell Street and Paint Rock Road.
Thank you, Chair Stribling. Our next case, also a preliminary and a final plat combined for Cetus subdivisions. The preliminary plat is that whole red box showing here on Era Street. This has been vacant for a long time. It's zoned RS1. The military base is close by, and you're surrounded by subdivisions, so this is the next area of development. Northeast of Bell and Paint Rock Road in District 4, Lucy Gonzalez, in the Bel Air neighborhood. So the preliminary is 14.25 acres, and then the replat, or excuse me, the first final plat is this blue area in here. It's 1.78 acres. So that's the blue area is what's being developed now. Preliminary will be down the road. So this is the final plat for an 8-lot single-family home subdivision. There is a large FEMA floodway that cuts through the middle of this plat. Makes it very difficult, so they can't develop in the middle here. One of the things that staff looks at in terms of the subdivision ordinance is connectivity, trying to provide internal streets so that not all the traffic is drained on the collectors and the arterials. In this case, with that FEMA floodway, they would normally have to provide some sort of street stub out to the east, but that makes it impossible with the floodway. The lots to the west, already part of that Goodfellow area. In the future, I guess they could come off of, they could still build north over here and provide connectivity. So staff's in support of that one variance request. All other conditions and regulations are in compliance. So these are some of the photos that we took looking north at the property from Era Street, and then east on Era Street, you have St. Margaret's Church on one side. And then as you go north, Stevens Street kind of dead ends with Ford, and so we worked that out with the applicant. They will continue Stevens Street to go east So it'll basically go straight through this area here and connect to those 8 lots. As part of that, they'll have to straighten out or realign any curbs, make sure that they add curbs as necessary, and provide the minimum required street width, which is 26 feet, and they're going to do that as well. So they're moving along with staff. This is west on Stevens Street. There's Bel Air School. So they are providing sidewalks as part of their plat because they're within 300 feet of that school. That pretty much covers it. So on the variance, our rationale for supporting it, again, it's surrounded by FEMA floodway, which acts as a hindrance to construction of a street. They mentioned it would be very cost prohibitive to do that. Staff agrees. FEMA floodway serves as a unique circumstance in this case. And then also the plat would still provide street access to all the new lots. So within the subdivision, they've got access, they've got adequate turning radiuses, adequate turnarounds, et cetera. So staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat for Citus subdivision, 4 conditions, and approval of the variance not to require the stub out, and finally approval of the final plat for Citus subdivision subject to 8 conditions. So the 4 on the preliminary, provide the stub out to the east or obtain the variance. So if they obtain the variance, that will go away. Revise the plat labeling a 20-foot maintenance sidewalk and utility easement. They wrote on their maintenance and utilities. We just wanted to add the word sidewalk so it was clear it was also for the sidewalk to go in there. Turnarounds must comply with the fire code and a preliminary drainage study. There was a note from engineering about a floodplain development permit required, just given the fact that it's surrounded by the FEMA and not just the floodway, but the floodplain, so they'll have to do that. And that should be it for the preliminary. The final copy of the tax cert, number 2, is same condition as what was in the preliminary plat. Sidewalk construction plan along Stevens Street. We can defer those sidewalks until final COs. Install a water main, install a sewer main. Submit plans for the Ford Stevens intersection and extending Stevens Street to get to those 8 lots. Turnarounds must comply with fire code and the drainage study again. Any questions or comments for staff or for the applicant?
Anyone have questions for the staff? So I see the variance request is in the final plat, it appears. Is that correct?
No, it's actually for the preliminary plat.
So it's in the preliminary plat.
Yep.
And where would you require stub outs that we're granting a variance for?
I think that, well, because over here, you already have lots built out. So I
Yes.
guess the stub out would be, like over here somewhere.
Okay? And you're in support of the variance because of the floodway that bisects the plat, this tract of land, is that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, the other opportunity for that is that Stevens Street at the far north end.
Yes, sir.
That could be continued on, but
Right.
again, that would also run into that floodplain, and that's, if there wasn't a floodplain, we would probably have recommended that street be continued on to the east,
Okay.
rather than ending like it does.
Are there restrictions or limitations on what can be put through the floodway? We can't put a road through?
No, you can put a road through the floodway, but it's more expensive. It requires either bridge or culvert or something like that.
Okay.
And so we often don't require local streets to go through floodways. Now, if it was a collector or something like that, that provides that connectivity.
Yes.
You would want to see those continue
Okay.
across the floodway.
What's the north-south street on the, or there's not one, is there? On the western side of the tract?
Right, yeah, this is an existing alley.
It's an alleyway?
Yep.
Okay.
And then there's a drainage easement over here, drain off to the east of that alley.
So in order to get to the lots on the northern end of this tract, they're going to go north on Evelyn or somehow get to Stephen and cut across?
Correct, yes.
Okay,
Go back to the aerial. Yeah, so they can either take Woodruff, I think when I drove out there, I used Evelyn as well. So I went across Era Street. I was coming along Paint Rock, so I went
Yep.
up Paint Rock, yeah, and then just crossed over like this. Or if they're coming north, they could come down Riverside as well, down 4th Street.
okay. You guys understand what we're doing here? Anyone else have questions? All right, thank you, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Blake with Wild Engineering, and we just asked for your approval as presented. So, any questions?
Anyone have questions for Mr. Willie? Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else wish to speak? I'm going to close public comment and take either further comment or question or a motion.
It was presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's 4-0. Thank you, Aaron. Okay, rezonings. City Council has final authority for approval of rezonings. Z 2217, 1826 Magnolia Street. Request for approval of a rezoning from the manufactured housing subdivision to the single-family residential zoning district, being .149 acres located at 1826 Magnolia Street.
Thank you, Commissioners. Our next case today is rezoning Z2217, 1826 Magnolia, District 4, Lisa Gonzalez, Paula neighborhood, northeast of North Bell Street and the Houston Hart Expressway. So they had a manufactured home on this property. They want to, that's been removed, and they want to put up a single-family home on the property. The manufactured home, I believe, has been there for some time. This area was rezoned in 2009. It was always RS1, and then they did a patch of manufactured housing. It was actually a private citizen that initiated that to the Planning Commission, and then the Planning Commission brought it forward. And the idea was to try to bring some more affordable housing at that time, and sort of a different types of housing, and maybe that would stimulate the market. Again, this was 2009. That didn't happen. Out of the 52 lots, I researched only one lot actually built a new manufactured home. And so based on this being on a corner lot next to RS1 already, they've got housing over single-family homes here, single-family homes here. And I think some of these are actually existing single-family that were grandfathered. We believe it's appropriate just for these two lots. And again, these two lots are 25 feet each. So we'll do a unity agreement before council to combine them. So that'll make it one lot. And so really, in essence, it's one lot going back to single-family residential. And I think that staff believes that's appropriate, just given that seems to be the way the market is going right now, and at least in that area. I think if it was in the middle of the block, maybe not, but I think on a corner like that, that's appropriate. So we are in support of the applicant's request. That single-family home would meet the lot size and be able to move forward with this zone change. 14 notices were sent out. We did not receive any in response. So this is north at the subject property. You can see it's vacant right now. There's a single-family home on one side, and then as you go west, you've got the existing manufactured housing. This is looking west and south. You can see a couple manufactured homes already in the area that were already existing. So the proposed RS1 zoning is consistent with neighborhood future land use. The property mentioned about the zone change. Rezoning to RS1 would facilitate new construction of a single-family home, as no new manufactured housing has taken place here. The property is surrounded by RS1 and single-family homes to the east. Staff recommends approval of a rezoning from the MHS zoning district, that's the manufactured housing subdivision, to the single-family residential RS1. And it's just straight zoning, so there's no conditions. Any questions for staff or for the applicant?
Anyone have questions for the staff? All right, thank you, Jeff. We're going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please state your name and address or single-member district.
The applicant just said they're, just in support of the request, and
Sure.
pretty much it.
All right, I'm going to close public comment and take a motion.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. The last item on rezonings, Z 2218, northwest of Arden Road and FM 2288, a request for approval to zone property as part of an annexation to the single-family residential zoning district, being 6.9 acres, located northwest of Arden Road and FM 2288.
Okay. You all had seen this preliminary and final plat come through for this area last month, Arden Acres, as well as the zoning. The zoning was for the area that was already in the city limits. That's that big block there. So this area is part of the new annexation that we discussed that's going to city council next month. So in order for that to be approved, we wanted to bring the zoning at the same time to go to RS1. So this is essentially from no zoning to RS1. That's what you're looking at today. Same area, same location, same acreage as before. Future land use has this block neighborhood. So I think we talked about this. Bosk Drive, which is off of FM 2288, would come in like this and provide access to all of these subdivision lots. This area is part of the preliminary plat, is not part of the final plat yet. Once it's annexed into the city and appropriate zoning has been passed, then they're able to final plat this area as well. And there's the zoning map to the right. One notice was mailed out because the owner owns all 100 acres around it. So I guess you could say they're in support. But since I didn't formally submit a response, I'll just say 0 and 0. This is northbound on Arden Road, southbound on Arden Road, west towards the property, and then southeast. Again, we've talked about this before, but feel free to, if you all have any questions at the end of the presentation. The proposed RS1 is consistent with neighborhood future land use. All the lots will exceed the minimum lot sizes for RS1 zoning. Property proposed to be annexed in the city limits to facilitate RS1. On July 18th, the commission, you all had recommended approval of that zone change to the east, so this is just the next zoning in conjunction with the annexation. Staff recommends approval, I don't know what happened there, to zone property to the associated RS1 zoning along with the annexation, being 6.9 acres with a larger font northwest of Arden Road and FM 2288. Any questions for staff or for the applicants?
Anyone have questions?
We are working with them on the servicing plan. I'll be sending out notifications this week to all of the utility companies and anyone else in that area. And with council on the Thursday, it'll be September 22nd is when this will go, along with the annexation for a final vote, a first reading.
All right. No questions for Mr. Fisher. I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this, please come forward. Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and take a motion.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Public comment. Issues or concerns not on the regular agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, address all comments to the dais, begin by stating their name and address or single-member district. Please limit all remarks to less than 3 minutes. I'm going to open public comment for the meeting. I'm going to now close public comment for the meeting because it doesn't look like anyone's going to speak. And we're on to the director's report.
Just have one thing. We are still preparing to bring an item to you all about notices and notification, how we let people know about cases. We had hoped to bring it at this meeting, but I think we're going to bring it at your next meeting.
Okay.
We're still wrapping up kind of a survey and contacting other cities to see how they're doing it and if they're doing anything different than we are, to maybe generate some ideas. But just as a reminder, we'd hope for you all to bring some ideas if you have thoughts on how we can maybe do something different or do things additional to what we're doing today, because we do want to have that discussion at the next meeting and get your input.
I think that's great, and I appreciate you guys working on it, John. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm excited. I can speak for myself. I'm excited to see some changes there, and I think it's going to help everybody, us and the community and the staff. So, does anyone else have thoughts they want to share? All right. The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. on Monday, September 19th at City Hall, East Mezzanine Room, 72 West College Avenue. The last item is the adjournment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? It's 5-0. It's 9:30.